This conference will now be recorded.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kurt is not with us tonight, but we do have one of his associates at online. So would you please give us your name?
He should be able to hear.
It will move on. Okay. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from our regular meeting of June 10th.
Is there any audio? Can anyone hear me?
Now we can, yes. Thank you for joining us.
Can you hear us is the question. Okay. Let me check something out. You can go ahead.
I cannot hear anything.
Okay, we're working on, oh yeah, he can't hear me. Okay, somebody made a motion.
I motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, a couple of announcements. I need to excuse myself at 6:30, so at that point, Zane will take over. I've been the Tri-Kappa chairman, or excuse me, Tri-Kappa president the past 2 years. We do 2-year terms, and this is my last meeting as president, and I need to be there to install the new officers. So I apologize for that, but I've missed several meetings, and the vice president's very graciously covered for me. It happens that they're the same night as council every month. A couple other announcements. I'm very pleased to announce that we have all our board and commission seats. I think will be filled after tonight. The plan commission seat, which is a president appointment, is going to now be represented by Kelly Spear. Kelly lives on Elm Street here in town, and she works at the REMC, and she's very excited to become involved. So Zane, thank you for that contact. And I have an RDC position still that needs filled. That is a town council appointment. So I would like to recommend Gavin Shalinsky from Taylor Lane. Gavin and his wife.
Hello, I'm here.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us? I have no audio in the meeting. So anyway, Gavin is also very excited to become active in something locally. So I would entertain a motion for council to.
I'll make a motion that we approve Gavin Shalinsky position in the RDC.
I'll second that.
And what did Kelly Spear take?
She's going to be the Democrat resident position on the Plan Commission,
Planning Commission.
replacing Matt Phillips, who moved. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank
And that's
you.
for both appointments, right?
No, the Plan Commission is a president appointment, so it will just be for the RDC appointment. And Carol will make contact with those people, and they are planning on being on board for the July meetings. Okay, on to any other announcements? We are going to move down to new business. The first item on the agenda is consideration of bids for the Albion Municipal Building roof project. Do Zane or Chris from the Public Works Committee want to speak on that, or are we going to have discuss that?
Well, there's a lot to that. So I'll start out anyway. After reading the RDC minutes, they don't sound real hep on helping with TIF money for that project. Or at least that's the feeling I got reading their minutes.
At that dollar amount is how I.
Well, I don't know. Yes, probably. So, either we go with, this 40-year roof that the Public Works Committee, and then we have, advice from Peters Franklin that,
Suppose no one can hear me.
we can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, there's something going on with his end because we're broadcasting.
Lori, hear us?
Lori, are you hearing us okay?
Yes, I hear you just fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can we just let you keep communicating with him, Scott? We can go
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
Okay.
You're fine.
So the email from Peters Franklin said that he has not changed his stance from the March email, stating that he didn't think we had any issues funding the $1.3 million roof. Is that what you're understanding?
Yes, but with the interesting caveat, funding it from a multitude of sources, not just TIF.
Right.
So, yeah.
It was a multitude of sources. And he listed, 10% water, 10% sewer, and
20% police. Those are percentages that Carol and the team kind of worked out and received some approval on some level that made sense. Those percentages of use of the various departments, and therefore that would kind of define what the max of the TIF could be, and based on the department usage.
Or we have other bids. We have one from Leatherman's for, what was it, Zane?
332.
332. Was it a 20 year? Right. Different kind of roof, different everything, 20-year guarantee with a 2-year workmanship guarantee. And we have another one from Quality Commercial Roofing, in the bid of $389,969, and they want $200,000 on start date. So they're wanting a little over half on start date. And this also is 20-year warranty, renewable after 18 years. So I don't know what renewable after 18 years means. So
As I understood it, they would do an inspection, and then for about $2,500 at that time, they would do a refreshing, and then the roof would be renewed another 20 years. And that last bid that Chris referred to, or quote from Quality, happened to be a walk through the door kind of happenstance, because that's the company that roofed the B Noble building, the former municipal building, 110 South Orange, and they happened to be there to do an inspection of it. And he came in to report to me, hey, that roof's in good shape, and this and that, and that they could refresh that as well. And then we happened to get on the topic of this roof, and then his ears perked open, of course, and he said, I can go up there and take a look. And I said, well, why not? Let's get some feedback. So basically, his bid, or quote, let's call it, because we didn't really solicit it, probably in the ballpark of what Leatherman quoted, because Leatherman's is now several months old. Assuming that price goes up, they're kind of in the same ballpark. Let's say for a 20-year roof is what we're thinking that is a 400 plus or minus thousand roof. If it's a 20-year quality roof.
all right, and the LCI bid does call out a 60 mil TPO roof. And this Herman Miller from Quality Commercial Roofing just calls out a Duralast or TPO roof. So,
And the one we were looking at, it was 80. And it wasn't the one we were doing was 80 mil,
yes,
so almost double.
so, actually, did you guys all get this, thing? Okay. So Zane, can you please tell them, remember we talked about the lifespan, and can you pull that up? Because we did some figuring on what the roof would cost over an amount of time for maintenance and repair, depending on the roof that we got. Sorry if I put you on the spot there, Zane.
No, you're fine.
But
In the committee at the time, if I may interject, was going for the quality, the long-term approach, because one of the determinants was, are we going to be in this building forever? And the general sentiment was yes. There was no, in the foreseeable future, we're going to be here, all the departments. And therefore, the thought was we need a quality overhead roof before we invest a dime in improving some of the interior needs that are required.
So this was part of, I can send this to anybody, but I think you all have it, but it's buried in emails from probably, I think, March, when Austin sent it out. And it was very eye-opening for me because he quoted us a 15 to 20-year roof, a 30-year roof, and a 40-year roof. And the 15 to 20-year roof, which was the 45 mil, so similar to what Leatherman's quoted, although albeit his was a little more expensive at $947,000. And then when you went up to a 30-year roof, it was at $1.4 million, and then to a 40-year roof was at 1.6. So, the quotes came in a little bit lower. The 40-year roof actually came in at 1.3 that we're actually looking at. But the biggest thing was value of the roof over the life cycle cost analysis that he did. So with that 15 to 20-year roof, to try to get it to last 40 years, you were at $5.1 million for that roof. For the 30-year roof, you were at $3 million. Sorry, those are additional costs to the roof. So when you're thinking of replacing it. And then with the 40-year roof, we were at $139,000 for that to be a 40-year guarantee. And then what was our warranty? What is it in a 30-year warranty?
it's a 40-year roof, but I thought he said
32.
38. I thought he said 38.
I wrote 32 on my paper right
Okay.
here.
I did too. So 32-year warranty. So really, as a council, we need to decide, do we want to pay the money now and go with a $1.3 million roof that we know is going to last at least for the majority of us sitting here. It's not going to be a concern. Or do we want to not spend that money and go with a cheaper roof and then just attack the problem when we need to, when we need another roof?
Okay, so I want to add one more thing. So the first one, base bid one, is for this section right here, which is the front part of this. So we had them bid the first section, and then the bottom is sections 2 and 3. So you can see in some of these bids, they're like the CMS roofing, there's no cost savings at all, whether you're doing 1 section, 2 or 3 sections. Are you with me? But basically Van Doren, who's the lowest bidder, is $493. And you're saving, I don't know. That would be about $150,000 by doing the whole roof. Because if you take 494,000 times 3 and you did it, of course these prices will go up. If we only do 1 section and we decide to do another section next year, this is a whole nother ball of wax.
We have those costs, every year, what the cost of a roof has went up. So we could realistically project what it would be in 3 years. Do that.
But there's cost savings, of, you know, at least 150,000, because they won't have to have the crane and all that type of stuff by doing it all at once. But some of the people that bid this job, didn't see the value in that. Anyway, now the ball is in this court right here, so. That's all we have, right, Zane? Steve?
Well,
Well, I guess there is a few more components to the 4-year rough. We have to do, there's some things legally we have to do to spend TIF money on the rough. And that's gonna, Beers and Mallard are gonna play a role in drafting. The RDC is then gonna have to accept what economic development
area or something.
area or something. So there is some steps that we would have to do if that's the path we choose to use TIF money for it.
And then if I could say the following, because a big part of this is a big chunk of money. And so the concern is, okay, how do you fund it? And then, as it was stated earlier, our two consultants, Franklin, what's it, that's
Peters Franklin.
Peters Franklin, thank you. They had weighed in a while ago, and as Chris said, they haven't changed their opinion. They indicated that there are funds from various sources. And in just looking at what they said there's 2.2 million of water cash in the water reserve and the cash in the water fund, 2.2 million, 1.1 million in the sewer fund. So that's like 3.3 million, but of that, we could only use 20% of it, 10% for water, 10% from sewer in each of the two funds. So I came up with 20% of that, we could use 600,000. And so, and again, I think, Carol would be wise if we would ask her to weigh in, because he does make the caveat, if no significant capital expenditures planned for those cash reserves. And I don't have a picture of that, and Carol does. But assuming, the 3.3 million of cash reserve, we could technically use 600,000 of that. So that would leave, and then, pardon me, and one other fund, the public safety, the lit fund, he identified about 500,000 of reserves, of which we could only use 20% of that, relating to the police function of the building. That would be 100,000. So the 600 from water sewer, the 100 from the police lit, public safety lit, I should say, that's 700,000. So of the 1.3, we could potentially use 700 from non-TIF. That would leave 600,000 left to fund through TIF, of which TIF 1 has 1.4 million, TIF 2 has 1.5 million. He lists two other funds I'm not that familiar with, the CCD and the CDIT, 400,000, 700,000. So there's some funds there, but again, the big caveat is, and we haven't done the fiscal plan yet to really tie it all together, but if we, how much of those cash reserves are obligated is the real question. So if we have the degree of flexibility where it's not all 100% obligated, or maybe the obligations occur 5 years down the road, at which point these funds are going to be replenished. Maybe we have the flexibility to really not rely on TIF for the real majority. About half of it, 600 from TIF, 700 from these two other funds.
Kurt says that any such expenditures must be part of an approved RDC economic development plan. if we're planning on using the TIF money. If not, the economic development plan must be amended to add the project if you are using the money. Because I know that they added the daycare. Remember that?
Yeah.
But they did not do anything in that plan with the roof, but they did add the daycare.
The daycare has not been officially included in the economic development plan.
Oh, I thought I saw a draft on that.
It was in a plan that had to be uploaded to Gateway, but what Kurt's talking about is amending our, establishing declaratory and confirmatory resolutions for the TIFs in order to include that. But he needs to see the establishing ordinances, which I believe Stephen's working on getting from him.
But we already committed to the daycare money.
They agreed to set some money aside for it, but it's not, what Kurt's saying is that if the daycare is not specifically spelled out in the existing establishing ordinances, that it's going to need to be, and there's a process that you have to follow for that. And when Peters Franklin, I believe what he was referring to when he said his opinion hadn't changed, that was after I had sent him the encumbrances. But his advice did not include any of the obligations that we already have for TIF funds. Well, not just TIF, but a lot of funds. And like to use public safety, we just approved a full-time fire chief, and it was voted on to use public safety money for that. So I wouldn't recommend touching those funds. They're going to be going away anyhow at the end of 2027. So then we'll be needing to rely on either the new lit structure or general fund. The way I understand, the new lit is going to be incorporated into the general fund. It'll be a revenue source for that, not a separate fund. Although it sounds like our fire department will be eligible, at least the way the legislation is written right now, to receive about 0.4% in lit funds under the fire and police. I've been in conversations with Campbell Ritchie from AIM, Ben Castle, DLGF. Everybody's trying to sort out just what our revenue's going to look like. But we're going to have a better handle on that once the state has a chance to analyze everything and get their distribution formulas figured out. But right now, everybody's still in that process of trying to figure out what the impact is going to be. I think maybe a better question is, I think a lot of times being focused on, do we have money to spend on this? To me, the big question is, should you spend that amount of money on this project? You already know my answer, of course, is no, which I made clear from the beginning. I was in favor of the competitive bidding process. And your $400,000 quotes would be the reason why. Because I feel like that's more indicative of what costs are in our area.
If the council were leaning toward the 20-year life roof, if you're rethinking that, I think we would have to go out for a quote, get a bid process, just so you're aware of that. It's not like we could, I think, accept either of these, the one older quote that's on hand from Leatherman or the newer quote from this other company, Quality. I think it would behoove us to have to bid it out. Or competitively, as Carol suggested, or go the same route we went with through Garland, that approach. But specify that we want a, lesser quality product, lesser life.
The other thing we talked about at the Public Works Committee meeting was, we would still like to do some renovations here in the town building, starting with the offices, the bathrooms, the police area. So there was talks and considerations about, can we still do this and the roof as well? I wouldn't say there was a definitive answer or agreement on that, but it's just something else to keep in the back of your mind.
To what Carol was alluding to about, the state still sorting through the impact of the SB1 legislative change. In a brief discussion I had with Jeff Peters on this fiscal plan idea, he brought that up, saying, yeah, it is anything but certain what the impact is of that. So there, unfortunately, there is that cloud on the fiscal, situation.
Horizon, yeah, on the horizon.
On the horizon. That he even made it sound like it was something that was being implemented in July 1, 2027. And so it's almost as if he was saying a lot of the known quantities will happen toward that date, which is, what is that, 2 years away. So all said, I mean, with the concerns financially, with the unknown equation of the SB1 impact, the desire, the need to do interior remod as well, maybe it does lean toward a different approach for that reason. Now, when we went into this back in the fall, maybe we didn't have all these cards on the table. There was a lot of unknowns, but we kind of thought there'd be a bit of the same playing field. Well, things are changing in that regard, on the state level. So.
Well, committee? I know you put a lot of time into this, but
It's ultimately up to the council.
the Public Works Committee does have other members. Well, did you have thoughts from them?
We talked about 4 things that day. The roof being one of them. We left the meeting. We were going to get some advice from Peters Franklin, which we did. And he said he had not changed his stance from the March email that he sent. So I read Carol's, what money's coming out of the TIF money in the future. But one of that bond one that you had that was, I don't know, was it 300 and some thousand? That doesn't, you're paying that annually for
And I
another
clarified
15
that in
years.
that
Okay.
That's committed, those funds are committed.
Right, but over 15 years.
Correct.
Okay,
I was giving the council what I know is committed out of TIF funds right now.
right, but not any future revenue. You don't know what that is.
I'm not sure if I'm on the Public Works Committee or not. I am kind of, and I'm not kind of. It just depends on what's being talked about. But I guess my concern is the $100,000 coming out of the lit funds going towards the roof instead of police equipment. I can't sit here and not say that would be at least disappointing. But that's basically what I use my portion for, is equipment.
Yeah, but don't you have a surplus in there of over 400,000 right now?
I have no idea because I only deal with the allotted amount for that year. That would be Carol's question.
I think Bob uses his up, but I think yours just carries over.
I've been putting off because the last stuff I asked for was a sticker shock for our radios. So I've been buying those one at a time. So I mean, I'm using it, but I'm just not buying the big purchases. I've got a Durango I'm going to try to buy this fall. That's going to be $50,000 coming out there. So I'm just concerned for me putting 100,000 towards the roof when I've got people that we need equipment to address citizen wise.
Well, that's understandable. But then, where does the liability of the building lay? Because everybody uses the building.
I don't think there's a wrong answer, it's just the mindset. Because we can put a 20-year roof on it, and it'll last 20 years. And then the next people will have, in 20 years, they're
We'll have to deal with everything that we're dealing with right now. Again,
So it's a mindset. That's all it is. And I guess you guys don't have to make up your mind, but we had these same discussions. We just wanted to bring it to you guys that what direction. And at this point, like I'm indifferent because the roof's a roof at this point.
I guess if you think of it from a fiscally responsible decision, if I were making that decision with my own money and I had one quote that was 3 times as high, and I know it's not comparing apples to apples, then I feel like going back and doing the competitive bid makes sense, even though I hate it because I like the Garland, system. And I mean, I think you guys did a ton of due diligence to research it, but given all the concerns about the funding available in the future.
Right, it's up to the whole council.
And Carol, are you more comfortable with the uncertainty, the things that we don't know, if we were to scale back the project?
I'm not sure I know.
Well, because there's so many unknowns about the SB1 and how that's going to affect things, and I know it's a lot of money, but
Scale back from like doing one section, or scale back and go a different route with
a different route, like 20-year, or it's
Oh, to go with a
fraction of,
year where you're talking a fraction of the cost, that's much more comforting, if you want to call it that. I know we need to address that, but to me, you could, at 400,000, you could replace the roof 2 or 3 times and possibly get between 40 and 60 years than the amount you're paying for one roof. It's a lot of money.
so if we want to explore the 20-year, we got to repost it for bid based on the 20 years.
We can do it. We could go with the Omnia procurement process again, or we could just open it and do bids.
do you want to vote before I leave?
We don't have to vote on anything right now.
Okay.
I mean,
If we're gonna look at the 20-year option,
this is a lot to digest, and maybe you guys just want to think about it for 2 weeks. In what direction we want to go.
all I'm saying is if we want to consider as a group a 20-year option compared to the 40-year option, you got to put it out for bid and then compare the numbers 40 versus 20, because we already have 40 here.
Well, and Garland could do the 20-year roof, the same approach as he did this one, if you choose, or we could go out competitively for bid for the 20-year roof. But then that's a little more involved from a staff standpoint. We've got to, get somebody to write the specs on it, and there's a whole nother, and then bid it out, appropriately per the CERT standard, so there's a lot of steps involved.
Is there any possibility there's a section of it?
No, because I just don't, if you're gonna do one type of roof on one section and then another type of roof on the other two, it's not a good idea.
And to be honest with you, I think these numbers are kind of bogus for the alternate bid, if you will, which is the sections 2 and 3. Like Chris was alluding to, when you look at it, it's the same price, right? That they're saying.
On several of them, it's very close.
But I'm calling BS on that because they're not really bidding that because it's not going to be done this year. So you're still going to have setup fees. You're going to have cost of material that goes up and everything. They're just not bidding that way right now. So there's that too.
All I know is the longer you wait, the more it's gonna cost. And the decisions that we make are gonna impact a console in the future big time. You're gonna leave the console, a future console, in a financial arena that is going to be much larger. Can you imagine? We all know what costs are doing right now. They're going through the roof. Can you imagine what's going to be like in 20, 30 years from now? Most of us aren't going to be involved in the community at that point. Some of us may.
Probably wouldn't even be alive.
But what I'm saying is it's not getting any cheaper. And it could, who knows, 10 times as much.
Okay, so Abby, you
Bring out
want
the
to go out for competitive bids, right? I'm okay with it. You're not bothered.
I think
You guys,
that's
what?
the responsible thing to do.
Anything that you guys say is not going to hurt Zane and I's feelings in any way, shape, or form. Vicky I don't think Vicky gave her opinion before she left, did
No.
she?
I mean, if we're going to compare apples to apples, we have to know what 20 years looks like. You know what I mean? Carol needs to know. I need to know. You guys, you may have an example of a 20-year roof here, but we don't have 3 examples or whatever.
But
Multiple examples.
we would need LCI to, they'd have to update their bid. It's from November. It was,
At that point too, you would want to like Kurt alluded to, or not Kurt, sorry, Steve, but Kurt did when he was here because he wanted it to go out to competitive. You're going to have to spec out the entire roof that you're requesting and then send it out to bid. So there will be some, what kind of roof do we want? What is recommended? It'll probably be getting back, I assume, with Austin based on what type of roof we have, and then talking with him about, unless you want to hire another roof consultant, but we've used Austin for this roof, and then sending that out for bid. Competitive bid.
I think we need to look at, to be fair, I think we need to look at, to see multiple 20-year bids on the roof, to see if it fits Carol's concern about the budget, and to give us an option or an alternative rather than the 40. If we had the money, I'm in for the 40. So I don't stick a future council with a crappy roof that they gotta redo because we chose something less because we couldn't afford it. Are you ever gonna be able to afford it? Probably not.
we have to move on, so.
It would be the easiest thing, I'll tell you this, if there's definitely interest in going a 20-year route, looking at it anyways. What's a 20-year roof going to cost? we've got two examples. What if we had Austin do the Omni approach with a 20-year?
I would be good with that.
And we have these other two bids as maybe, it's not gonna be apples to apples, and that's the thing, but they kind of, we let Austin know, we've got two bids are in the 400,000 range for a 20-year. Of course, he may pick it apart saying, it's not the quality we do, blah, 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 but,
It's still gonna be a little bit different based on the numbers that he gave us way back in the beginning. So his 15 to 20-year roof was $940,000 versus a 332 from, now again, when you do that, 45 mil is what Leatherman's
They quoted
Quote.
60 mil.
60 mil,
60 mil TPO.
okay, and this guy didn't even quote, this quote doesn't even have that. So I think if we go with Austin, I think it's going to be close to that $800,000, $900,000 mark, which still isn't, I think, what you guys are wanting to see in terms of,
savings, yeah.
and what Carol alluded she wants to see is, which is competitive bids.
I'm saying it would have to be an RFP solicited to multiple.
We'd have to work with someone on what our requirements for this roof, what they are, and then send it out for bid.
Or it has to be specific. But do you know when we say 20-year roof, are we talking 60 mils of TPO with insulation under? I mean, we have to know what that is. And we don't, because none of us are roof experts.
The 40-year roof was 80 mil.
He showed us, remember all the layers that he
Yeah.
had? That was a layered roof with, was it 4 layers?
I think so, for that one.
Right.
The DuPont.
The Leatherman's quote is 2 layers. And the Quality Commercial Roofing is 2 layers. You just want to take this back to the Public Works Committee?
I'll have to.
Fine.
Okay, let's move on. Consideration of parking and traffic ordinance number 2025-09.
That's gonna have to be tabled because I'm sending stuff back and forth to Kurt. So it's my send, so that'll be brought up in another day.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions or anything about it, but that's what we got at this point. I'm up to 21 edits because the traffic ordinance has not been updated since 2011. And there's been a lot of changes in town that have just signed one up, but the ordinance has not followed it. So that's causing a little more time to make sure it's all inclusive as best as possible.
Any questions for Scott? Okay. Moving on to the Leatherman Construction request for advance payment on the water plant project. Did you want to talk to this?
I can a little bit, Zane, thank you. Basically, Leatherman construction had asked for an advance payment to accommodate Quick Tanks, the manufacturer. We were told by VS Engineering that we could do that per the terms of the contract if we viewed it as units completed, the ordering of vessels to be classified as units completed. So there's like a gray area where we could view it as a legitimate progress payment. But then our town attorney weighed in saying there'd be, implications that we would really need to have a policy in place to be able to support an advance payment. And then you have to ask the question, Kurt said, do you want such a policy in place or not? Do you want that ability or not? Now, in the case of this company asking for the advance payment, it was kind of known up front how the payment system was going to work, and every other contractor bid it with that understanding. I had a brief discussion with Vicky before the meeting, and I think she was weighing in on that as a real concern, that it would be potentially viewed as unfair to other bidders if we're now giving an advance payment that they were not aware of in the, in the original spec of the project.
There is a state law that applies that says we can't make an advance payment for goods or services not received.
Yes, yeah, that there is such a law like that, and that's why Carol was very concerned about it, I think, from the beginning.
And that's why we'd have to have the ordinance.
Yes, you'd have to have a whole revamp of, or one policy and ordinance that would support it.
What did Leatherman say when you told them that we weren't going to do that?
He said, thank you for the feedback or the info, and that was it. In fact, Vicky asked the same thing. What did they say after that? There's been no further appeal on their part to say.
Right. Is this holding up our project?
I have not been, the water guys were concerned about that, and they had thought that it had already been ordered, that everything was in motion. So no one has communicated to me otherwise. I think that there would have been some communication from.
Okay, well, since we don't know for sure,
Yep.
let's communicate with them.
Just ask them to make sure that they're okay with, or they're still proceeding with the project.
The project, okay.
Right, if they're not, we need to know that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let's move on to consideration of SB1 for tax abatement, B&J specialty. This would be resolution 2025-10.
Do we have that?
We do. We talked about it, I believe, last a little bit.
Can I just say, I'm Tara Streb, I'm with B Noble, and we did the application, and I'm here to support the RDC's recommendation for a 5-year abatement on their personal property. I believe that falls in line with the property's depreciation schedule, and that will employ one new hire, bringing Albion's B&J total annual payroll to over $1 million. So I'm here in support of that request.
And in fact, RDC, as was mentioned, weighed in on this and recommended to the council to approve this tax abatement request known as SB. What's it called? What's it called?
SB1.
S what?
SB1.
Okay, that's what confused. Same as the state law, but different, totally different. But anyway, they went through the findings of fact, and if the council has to go through the same findings of fact, and RDC went through each of them and found affirmatively that yes, all questions were answered affirmatively, and that's what's required in order to approve the abatement. So at some point in the course of the meeting, if you're acting on this tonight, you probably want to go through these 5 findings of fact and just to vote a yes or no on each one, so that you have a.
It's the 6/6 email that says Steve Gunty, RDC meeting next week. It's one big fat attachment. So what did the RDC recommend? How many years was the recommendation?
It's a 5-year abatement.
5-year?
The total for the one piece of personal property was for $161,981.
Melanie had given us, I believe, 3 schedules. Was it a 3, a 5, and a 7?
Yes.
And the RDC, like the middle of ground, the 5-year abatement schedule. And each abatement schedule, Melanie had printed out what it was per year, and that was all based on the state law, what the
Correct.
formulas were for each of the the three possible abatement terms.
Correct. And with the 5-year abatement, that would save B&J Specialty just over $4,500 over the 5 years.
Sorry, I'm just looking at all this.
Do we want to go through the findings and facts for
Yeah,
this?
yeah, I
Okay,
think we
let's
should.
begin then. So I'm going to defer to Smoke on the first one. Smoke, do you feel that the estimate of the cost of new manufacturing equipment is reasonable for that type of equipment?
Yes.
So we all have to say yes. We all have to say yes.
I'm in agreement with Smoke.
Okay, yes.
He knows
Yes.
that better than me, so yes. All right, number 2 is the estimate of the number of individuals who will be employed and whose employment will be retained can be reasonably expected to result from the installation of the new manufacturing equipment.
Which is one employee for one machine that
Correct.
they're installing for 600 and some thousand and change. And they have a total workforce with that one of 31, I believe.
Correct. At the Albion facility, that's right.
With a salary of $35,000.
I thought the machine was 161,000.
The machine is $161,981.
Really good
Where are we getting
product.
600?
I probably misspoke.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay, I'm gonna say yes.
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 I'm also a yes. Okay, moving on to number 3. The estimate of the annual salaries of those individuals who will be employed and whose employment will be retained can be reasonably expected to result from the proposed installation of new manufacturing equipment.
Yes.
Abby?
Yes.
Just a minute. It's $17.15 an hour. Yes.
I am also a yes. Moving on to number 4, other benefits about which information was requested are benefits that can be reasonably expected to result from the proposed installation of the new manufacturing equipment.
The RDC, I informed them that this could technically be an NA, not applicable, but they said, well, because we didn't ask for any other information from the company as to what other benefits are there, but they projected that, well, there certainly are other benefits, and therefore they answered that one yes.
I think that the other potential benefits is that they're having one employee, but if they operate multiple shifts, that could lead to at least 2 more. So it gives them expansion capability. So I would say yes to that.
When I was on that committee or on that board, other benefits can even include, spending money in town, buying a house here. That's another benefit or possible benefit created.
Yeah, and that was exactly the sentiment of RDC, that these things would be their other benefits.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, last one, number 5, the totality of benefits is sufficient to justify the deduction.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ma'am, one thing I would like to see though in the future, and we talked about this when I'm on the tax abatement committee.
Okay.
We have no proof that this machine could stay in that facility for the duration of the abatement, meaning B&J, for whatever reason, if they wanted to close the doors in Albion or just move that machine to another B&J facility, they could. And one of the things that our town managers required to do every year is to go check the installations and make sure that this machine is still there.
Correct.
The problem that we could potentially run into is, we have a new town manager, which Steve just came on, and he doesn't know what that abatement was. So we would request on these applications, at least I would, and maybe other people would as well, just if we could have the serial number here.
Okay.
Make, model, and serial number.
Yep.
Sure.
And so then we can prove that this SB1 is for that machine that's still sitting in there.
Absolutely, that makes sense, we will do that.
And then you want me to stick my head in the press to find the series. I'm joking.
Luckily, our tax abatements used to be 2 pages. I believe they're down to 1.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to approve this SB1 after we completed the finding of facts.
We're gonna approve the resolution 2025-10, so I will make the motion to do that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
So moving on to consideration of NDOT street sweeping services agreement.
Who seconded that last?
Carol said the street sweeping agreement hasn't changed in like, what, 8 years or something like that? It's a 4-year agreement and it hasn't been changed in 8 years.
Is that the actual?
They haven't given us any more money for sweeping the streets twice a year. She says this amount has been the same for at least the past 8 years. So it seems like it wouldn't be out of line to ask for an increase.
I talked to Corey about that, and he said that he's just glad to get something, and that the amount that we get covers like one set of brooms for the sweeper per year.
So is it Corey's recommendation then to go ahead with it?
You gonna make the motion?
That's
Al,
Vicky or Zane.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we renew our contract with NDOT for street sweeping services.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That concludes new business. Let's jump back up to department heads. Thanks for waiting.
Sometimes I think it's tough being out here, but I'd rather be out here. You should have received an email with my monthly reports. I don't think there was anything big or pressing on those. If you have any questions.
I do not have any questions.
None for me.
And then, I guess the next part is the consideration of the 2026 fire protection agreement that Carol put together for us.
Anything really changed in this?
Just the amounts.
Just the amounts?
Yeah, so
3%, right?
Right.
yeah, we went 3%. Last year I was asked by one trustee to please not go any, which I think they probably all wanted to say that. But we couldn't go 0. You guys understand that. Our max is 5. I just didn't think 5 was necessary. Carol really helps me out and it shows me kind of where we were deficient in some line items, so we maneuvered some stuff around. And I hope those were acceptable to you, Carol, since you forwarded them on.
Yeah.
What was the last agreement increased by?
3%, I think.
Was it 3% or 2%?
It was 3 or 2, maybe.
I was thinking 2, but I do not hold me.
We also submit to them, so they where their money's going, you know what I mean, the trustees.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we do I do a 10-year capital improvement project or form that I sent to everybody. You guys get it, the trustees get it. The trustees, if you guys look real close to the emails, I send the trustees the same reports that you guys get.
And that's very nice.
I would never send them stuff that is confidential between us, but I think they deserve a right to see what our activities, our training activities are. They may not understand the scorecard. Sometimes I don't understand the scorecard. And I get it. I get one reply every month from Don Schultz. Receiving it, but
Nice.
yeah, it is nice.
I don't have any questions over any of those.
Are there any more questions for Bob?
Do you need a motion for us to accept the 2026 fire protection agreement?
I do believe you did.
I'll move to accept the 2026 fire protection agreement with the township trustees.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Moving on to police department.
Should have received a monthly report from us. I'll gladly field any questions you may have. It's been kind of a busy month with the protests and the carnival and that kind of stuff, but Cruise-In show. I did meet with the new CEO for Hickory. Great conversation, great discussion. Tried to call him yesterday. His phone is no longer connected. Found out today that he is no longer the new CEO for Hickory.
I found that out today as well.
So I don't know why. I just know that it's
What kind of a meeting did you have with them to make them want
a
to
great
leave?
meeting. Great meeting. I thought it was very, very productive.
I know you mentioned it.
That's why.
It was very productive.
I called to talk to him yesterday and got sent to the head of facilities maintenance man.
Is that extension 9, whatever? Is that who that goes to?
Well, I couldn't find the CEO, so I went to HR, and HR just took my voice message and sent it to the head of maintenance for the whole Hickory. And
Cool. You got somebody.
yeah, but he wasn't from Albion. He's not at this plant or this, whatever you call it. So, it's crazy.
So anyway, those are just a few of the things that happened. So if you have any questions, I can answer them.
So we don't know who's running the place right now.
The message I got was there is actually a local person that works there that is applying for that position, and not knowing any other candidates, it almost might behoove us to support them so that we would have somebody local
We
there.
probably got the same information from the same person. So yeah, she's been there for a while.
Yeah, she's kind of a stability.
Yeah, a good contact person at least.
Yes.
Parking situation, as I emailed you, the signs are up that the county ordered. I've only received one question at best, because they seem high in the air. But I did check with Corey to make sure, and they are going to be a little high, because we believe it's 7 foot to the bottom of the sign, so nobody hits their heads, is the requirement by NDOT. So that's why they look high, because they are high. So did anybody have any problems with the placement of the signs as you were driving around, or they look okay? I see Corey Mark put our 2-hour parking up on the east side or west side of the courthouse. Does anybody here know if they're on the traffic parking committee?
I'm not.
You are?
I
You
might,
too?
I might be. I'm not sure on it. Let me check.
Well, you might get it anyway. Once I'm done with this edit on this parking schedule, I would like a couple fresh eyes on it, because mine are crossing as we speak with all the changes. So that way you can at least proof it for language. I did have Steve take a look at it, and he made a couple changes for me. So I'm definitely not perfect. So I'll email that to you. I just didn't want to surprise you with what's this. So expect that on an email as part of the process to get this thing through.
Parking and traffic. No, I'm not lying.
Who does it say? Who does it?
Okay,
Yeah, you
good.
lie, you
Good.
lie.
So, if you can check that out, I'd appreciate it. Let me know if you see anything major error-wise. Chris, you asked the last meeting, you thought they had enough parking, when this whole thing started?
They have 10 vehicles parked in the annex lot,
Yeah.
county owned.
And that's what they were going to use that, what I was talking to you about last meeting.
Right, but
For those vehicles.
I see, I've been driving by there, not at lunchtime. So during working hours. And there's many open parking spots in the county annex lot.
Right, but you gotta make sure, oh, you say it's not during the lunch hour? 'Cause they-
No, it's not, no.
Okay.
I have made a point to drive my little Kubota 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Those are not, those are, in my opinion, those are not lunch times. 10 and 2.
Well, they take them at all different times there, but
Right,
the
but-
majority is around 11 to 1, probably.
Right, but I'm driving around at 10 and 2.
Well, I believe that the parking numbers were in error because when I checked the numbers, I actually physically walked the courthouse today and counted, and their numbers are off usually by 1 or 2 that they actually have on this map. They're shy of those numbers because they're counting handicap parking as possible parking, which it is, but it's very, very restricted, very seldomly used. But they also are counting the 2-hour areas in certain spots as available parking, which they are. But as it boils down around the courthouse, counting both sides, just around the courthouse, both sides of Main, Jefferson, what's the other ones? Jefferson Street, Main Street, Orange Street, and York Street, both sides of the street, 2-hour parking has 79 spots, and the county has 23 spots reserved for them. The other that the county did reserve with those 2 sets of signs are 2-hour parking just around the courthouse. And there's 79 available parking there and 10 handicap spots. So if you ratio that out, we got a lot more public parking than they got county parking. So saying that, they have the majority of the parking on the annex part of it. So I didn't walk through the parking lot today. I did see 3 empty spots as I was driving around. But like in front of your house, they've slotted 4 spots. You only have 3. And they've done that in several spots. So the numbers say they have enough, but when it comes down to it, they've got less than what their map shows because of the way they count it. But yet the only problem we're really having is jury days. Because possibly 100 vehicles come in per wave to park. During the normal business hours, I agree with Chris. There's places to park, no problem. But on jury days and when they do have juries, they may have 2 or 3 a week. There's a lot of cars looking for places to park. So that's just a brief update on what I've been researching with the ordinance change, schedule change. I have to go out and look to make sure I'm doing it right, and then counting. We're not in terrible shape at all most of the time, but there are those days that there's not a parking spot to be had.
The parking lot that they bought, which would be north of the courthouse, that you said they were gonna pave or put some money into.
North of the courthouse?
I'm sorry, north of the post office.
Sure.
Was it you that told me or somebody else that told me they were gonna move those county-owned vehicles?
They were talking to us about moving those county-owned vehicles to our lot.
Oh, okay.
Because they wanted to pave it, they wanted to put a pole with a camera on it and lights. But they weren't going to do that. I've never heard anybody say that on the post office lot.
Okay.
So, yeah, they were gonna do that for us, and that's what they were considering, improvements or swapping. They were swapping the development of that lot as an improvement for what they're gonna invest in that lot. And so that's where the idea of maybe just transferring that lot came into play, because we would gain some things like liability release and ADA stuff and paving it so we could direct the water. Things like that was kind of where the conversation went with the transferring of it. But I did relay to them, so you know, what we talked about last meeting, so the ball's kind of in their court now. What I basically ended up with is we understand of the development of it, but it comes down to you developing somebody else's property. So if you have a price or you want to entertain an idea, come on back to the table, because it sounds like the council was okay with maybe selling it, or if they could find something to swap besides what we talked about, that there was at least an interest there. So the ball's in their court now if they want to approach us about it. So that's kind of where we are. We'll still have to maintain it. It'll still be used if there's no parking spots uptown, but that's where we are at this point.
Thank you for the update.
No problem.
Anything else, Scott?
No. Any questions about any of that? If not, I appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to the town manager's report.
You've got my report as well. Nothing to add. I will say the most significant time crunch was with the preparation of the RFP for the sale of the former municipal building. Other than that, it was mostly par for the course type of stuff I was involved in.
Probably haven't received anything, have you?
Say that again.
You haven't received anything, have you?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. No, I haven't, and it would have been addressed to me. I don't think it would. I wasn't here today.
I haven't seen anything.
So yeah, probably nothing at this point. I will say, Lori Gagan though has had approached the Landmarks Group, and they looked at the building, and Lori feels that they might have a couple of ideas or partners or something. So we likely could result in a proposal from them. So that's encouraging, but nothing else that I've heard of. I guess time will tell.
Any more questions for Steve?
I'm looking through that report. I already read it once. I have to look one more time to see if I highlighted anything.
I think you've been busy with permits.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Definitely an uptick. So, kind of expected though, with the summer upon us, people doing, mostly, decks, fences, a couple of electric upgrade, and and of course there's the one big project has kind of started with the grocery store, where they're starting to they applied for a permit and some work is underway.
Former grocery store?
The former and possible future. We'll see.
Oops.
Well, once the permit, that's the cat out of the bag.
That's it. Thank you. I have no further questions.
I do. I want to. So, were you guys all copied on this Peters Franklin financial thing?
Fiscal plan. Mhm.
Right. I think Carol alluded one time to, we don't have a financial planner, you know what I mean? As far as, $24,000 is like choking me on that. But, we're looking at a roof and we're looking at remodeling and, I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts, Carol, on that?
I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think the timing isn't the greatest right now. We don't have funds appropriated specifically for that. I'd like to see it.
Maybe next year, if you would appropriate them.
This year's budget, and then maybe the state will have had a chance to analyze the
SB1
legislative
ramifications.
changes, because what Jeff would prepare is going to be based a lot on
Past.
projected revenue. Well, the past, yeah, but we've already got that. He'll be getting a lot of information to prepare that from us. And Where I think we need the help is with projecting our future revenues, which nobody really knows how that's gonna pan out yet.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think I agree with her though. Let's maybe appropriate or maybe budget for next year on that because we don't have, number one, we don't have unlimited amounts of money. We don't have TIF districts that are going to last forever. And the lit money's going away. So, and the SB1 is killing everybody's revenue. All right, so last thing I have is, so I want everybody to think about this Peters Franklin thing for next year. And I hate to put you guys on the spot, but I want to know if we have had any estimates from the damage from the fire department.
I can tell you where we're at.
Okay, sure.
So they assigned an adjuster. He will be here tomorrow afternoon. What he has told me, and that guy can weigh in if he likes. The gentleman that I spoke on the phone who was assigning the adjuster basically alluded to the fact that that is a Butler building, and there's only very few people who can get parts for Butler buildings. Sorry, that's a lot of
I
people.
think LCI is a Butler building.
They are. So we were very lucky. You guys understand? They came in right away and secured the building for us. I submitted that invoice yesterday. So
how much was that?
It was $1,300,
okay.
Which I did not think was horrible for all the work that they did in the pouring down rain.
Yeah, on non-out working hours.
On a Monday or Tuesday night, whatever it was. So his comment was, if they are a Butler builder representative, we can use them, but they have to submit a quote. Plus the adjuster looks at it, they compare it, and then we can move forward with it. I don't have that number yet. Josh took my email yesterday and said he would have something for me. So I think it's coming. But I've been dealing with Steve and Carol, like, do I go get quotes? Do I wait till we get permission to get quotes? Because, I don't know, knock on wood, we haven't had a person hit a building in a long time.
But it's a Butler building.
But it's a Butler building.
Right.
And the only caveat is that building is built from left to right. And we took it out in the middle.
How about the truck?
The truck is remarkably well. My guys took the compartment doors off. There were 2 of them that were damaged. They have them pounded out, bondoed, ready to paint probably tomorrow and back on. And you probably won't know that there's been anything to the truck. We missed the steel beams. We just hit the aluminum siding. Otherwise, it would have been much different. You will, because our policy for the fire department has a whole written report that I will follow up with. I just got the police report from DJ yesterday, yesterday. Once I review that, you guys will get a copy of my report. That's just what our policy says we have to do. So
That's all I got. You might be just stuck in that Butler building thing and not have to, you might not have to get.
I just want to make sure that this isn't reaching out for 3 quotes and all that.
It shouldn't be over the dollar. It shouldn't be over 50,000.
Ben can hear us if anybody has a question for Ben there on TV.
Yeah.
Oh, is he can hear us now?
I can hear. I can answer some questions, perhaps.
Have you any questions about anything we've talked about so far?
No questions. I'm roughly familiar with most of the topics that have come up tonight.
Okay.
State law is going to change before your next meeting, so you might be aware of things. So, for example, people mentioned routine repairs way back at the beginning of the meeting, and that is increasing a threshold from 150,000 to 300,000. If you had that as part of some of your renovations that you wanted to do, and that you wouldn't have to bid out if it's under 300,000. You would only have to do just pick your favorite service provider. Or retention is another one that's changing on July 1st. If your Leatherman contract, if VS had that for somewhere between 5 or 10%, the max you can do after July 1st is 3%. So that may need to be looked at and changed. There's not much that we wanted to put out there, but just a few things.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. No more questions, Chris?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, let's move on to approval of accounts payable and payroll vouchers for June 2nd and June 24th.
I'll make a motion that we accept and pay the vouchers for June 24th, 2025.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Crack it.
Opposed?
Crack it.
Thank you, Ben, for joining us.
Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome.